back. I'm John Oliver. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been another busy week. The flagship of the Russian Navy sank. The Kardashians returned to TV, though I hadn't actually realised they'd left. And in Tennessee, a state lawmaker discussing a bill to criminalise camping on public property made this incredible argument.
I want to give you a little history on homelessness. 1910, Hitler decided to live on the streets for a while. So for 2 years, Hitler lived on the streets and practiced his oratory and his body language and how to connect with the masses, and then went on to lead a life that got him in the history books. So a lot of these people, it's not a dead end. They can come out of these homeless camps and have a productive life, or in Hitler's case, a very unproductive life. I support this bill.
The fuck are you talking about? What is your point? He's basically using the age-old, what if the homeless person you passed on the street was Jesus, except in his example, the person is Hitler, Adolf Hitler, and the homelessness somehow only made him stronger. But instead of going down that wormhole, we're going to focus on the midterm elections. They're happening in November, and in the run-up are some very important party primaries. Pennsylvania's is just a month away now, and it is a state that could well determine who controls the Senate. And its primary was shaken up recently by this.
By the way, I endorsed another person today, Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania. Dr. Oz. Great guy, a good man. You know, when you're in television for 18 years, that's like a poll. That means people like you, but he's a great guy.
Wow. I hadn't heard that voice in a while, and to be honest, I really haven't missed it. The first growl in that clip was like hearing the sound of a cranking lawnmower you know's about to sexually harass you. Now, as for his claim there that being on TV for a long time is like a poll showing that people like you, that is just not true. Believe me. I've been on TV in this country for 16 years now, and I still get YouTube comments like, I hope he stops soon. Why is less funny Mr. Bean so mad? And the most unwatchable thing on television, why does he always look sick? And I don't know. But yes, Trump has endorsed Dr. Oz, and we've talked about Dr. Oz's daytime snake oil carnival in detail before, so I didn't think his campaign could surprise me, but it has, because it's been a shit show, starting with the fact that for years he's lived in New Jersey, and his social media still frequently shows him at his North Jersey mansion, so he is running for office in a state he doesn't seem to want to live in, a savvy political move known as the Eric Adams special. And when he wasn't in New Jersey, he was often here in New York, and the reason I know that is his show filmed in this studio. His offices were actually right across the hall from ours, and I'm not saying that is why, after we made this prop of a giant alligator giving the finger, we set it up in our reception area directly facing his offices, but it did seem an appropriate way for him to be greeted every morning. Now, as if to overcompensate for questions about his residency, Dr. Oz has been posting photos and videos from all over Pennsylvania, like this one, of him and his wife at a Pittsburgh Penguins game. And let's just take a moment to appreciate his wife's expression there. Because that is a look that just screams, I'm in Pittsburgh with Dr. Oz. He's also been going out of his way to empathise with the concerns of regular Pennsylvanians like this.
Thought I'd do some grocery shopping. I'm at Wegner's, and my wife wants some vegetables for crudité, right? So here's a broccoli. That's $2. Not a ton of broccoli there. Here's some asparagus. That's $4. Yep. And carrots. That's $4 more. That's $10 of vegetables there. And then we need some guacamole. That's $4 more. And she loves salsa. Yeah, there's salsa there. $6. Must be a shortage of salsa. Guys, that's $20 for crudité, and this doesn't include the tequila. I mean, that's outrageous. And we got Joe Biden to thank for this.
OK, so there is a lot to unpack there, starting with the fact that Dr. Oz went to a grocery store dressed like Dexter before a serial murder. Then there's the fact that he calls the store Wegner's, which is not its name. That is a Redner's, something that he'd have known if he'd simply looked at the sign above his head. And finally, what is that slapdash crudité nightmare right there? No bell peppers, no celery, and where's the hummus? A crudité platter requires a thick dip, Mehmet. If the dip ain't thick, the dip don't stick. I can only imagine his wife's face when he brought those ingredients home, except I don't actually have to, because it probably looks something like this. And that is not the only time Dr. Oz has tried to connect with voters over high prices. One of his favourite things to do right now is show himself pumping gas on TikTok.
You know why gas is costing so much money these days? Because of Joe Biden's mismanagement of our energy production. I fill up my gas tank almost every other day. $300 a week. Not to mention how much I'm spending on groceries. The cost of living is skyrocketing. So gas prices, look at this, guys. Risen to the highest in 14 years. I always pick the middle, but, you know, it's almost $5. It's crazy.
Look, gas prices are a real concern, but Dr. Oz is worth over $100 million, so it's a little weird for him to act like it's specifically straining his budget. But maybe he's only posting those videos to push slightly less relatable content further down his page, like, I don't know, this one.
My life be like, yeah. My life be like.
Cool. That is Dr. Oz wake surfing with the caption surfing through #Italy to the song My Life Be Like. And the truth is, that is what his life be like because he's fucking rich, which means he gets to do stuff like that. But what he doesn't get to do, though, is stand in front of gas pumps and pretend he's personally affected by those numbers. Now, many Republicans actually doubt Dr. Oz's conservative bona fides, which may be why he's tacked so hard to the right on issues like gun rights and abortion, posting this statement that he supports defending the most vulnerable, the unborn. And look, maybe that shift to the right and the Trump endorsement will help him win. But if that happens, it'll be pretty remarkable because for a man who's made a career out of talking into a camera, it is amazing how bad he's been at doing that during this campaign. It's honestly hard to pick a low point, but I do have to show you this one video from last month where he seems, best case scenario, exhausted.
I want to give a big shout out to all the Pennsylvania high school wrestlers who are competing today in Hershey at the PIAA state championships. Penn State head wrestling coach and American wrestling legend, Cael Sanderson, you all know who he is, has said repeatedly that Pennsylvania high school wrestling is the best in the country. And that if the Penn State program could actually get all these folks, they'd be unbeatable. I agree.
Look, I don't know what I like most there. The fact that he seems to be performing a cameo no one requested. The shout out to Cael Sanders, you all know who he is. Or the fact that that was posted at 6:57 p.m. Did you pre-game a high school wrestling match, you deeply weird man? And look, I'm not saying that if Dr. Oz loses, Pennsylvanians will have a better option on the Republican ticket. They won't. His main opponent is this guy, Dave McCormick, the former CEO for the world's biggest hedge fund. But this campaign has actually taught me something because I talked a lot of shit about the Dr. Oz show, and I did that because it was unremittingly terrible. But what is now clear is that I didn't appreciate just how hard his staff had to work every day to make sure that it wasn't even worse. He had to abandon his show to go run for Senate, and if any of his staff are coming back to our office in the coming weeks to clear their stuff out, we've actually left a new special message for them on our alligator. I'm sorry, he seems like a fucking nightmare. Because he really does. And now, this.
And now, the profound despair of hollow chocolate bunnies.
I remember being a kid and biting into the Easter chocolate and it was hollow and being so angry that it was duped.
When I was growing up, we would have the hollow ones.
I was always disappointed in the hollow ones.
Oh, because you thought they were solid.
Yeah, you get it, and it left me empty.
So are they solid? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
You
right.
bite off the top of it, and it's like...
You don't want to see it hollow in there.
No hollow chocolate bunnies for me.
Yeah, what's the point of eating air?
Not one of those you got when you were a kid that was hollow on the inside, which was so disappointing.
Yeah.
It must be a solid chocolate bunny. That's what we need.
Solid chocolate Easter bunny.
A solid.
You know, some are hollow.
Yeah, and then some have like things in them.
Yeah, the solid, which
Right.
they're hard to find.
Yeah, that's a
And
good point.
as a kid, I felt like I was denied this solid.
The solid.
We got the
You're
hollow.
very particular
And
child.
I wanted the solid. I'll buy myself one this year.
Oh, good for you.
Moving on. Our main story tonight concerns police interrogations. You're probably familiar with them as they're a staple of countless TV shows, including ones you might not expect.
Did you kill your father with this axe?
No, I didn't.
Lie to me again and I'll arrest you for murder, capiche?
Honey, I'd like a mineral water, no ice.
And I'd like your balls in a blender, but ain't like a bitch.
No, you're not understanding me. I want you to confess. Confess? Confess!
Holy shit! Pinkie Pie's about to fuck that dragon up. I was not expecting a clip from My Little Pony to look like a deleted scene from Training Day. But you can see why interrogation scenes are so popular on TV. They're inherently dramatic and can result in a confession moving the story along. But it's not just audiences who find them compelling. Juries do too. Confessions are viewed as the gold standard when it comes to an indicator of guilt, as they can apparently be more persuasive than even DNA evidence. Just listen to all these jurors in high-profile trials explain the key evidence that convinced them to convict.
We just felt that no one would confess 3 times if they didn't do it.
He could have continued to deny it. If you did not hurt that baby, I mean, you would go to your grave saying, no, I didn't.
It was very hard to imagine why anybody would make up something that not only incriminates them, but is full of details that sound like they actually happened.
Yeah, confessions are wildly persuasive because we think that they're one of those things that only guilty people do. You know, like posting a Notes app apology or refusing to answer any of Ronan Farrow's questions. But here is the thing. In all those jurors' cases, the confession later turned out to be false. That last juror was from the case of the Central Park Five, or as they're now known, the Exonerated Five. In fact, of all the convictions that have been overturned through DNA testing, 29% involved false confessions. And you may find that hard to believe, because it can be very hard to comprehend how someone could confess to something they didn't do. Just watch Lester Holt struggle to get his head around it while talking to a journalist who covered a false confession case.
The more I investigated it, the more I came to believe that he might be telling me the truth. There is not a shred of forensic or physical evidence.
But he confessed.
Yeah, like most people, you can't possibly fathom admitting you did something that you didn't do.
Nobody does that.
Nobody would think they're capable of doing it. But the truth is, a skilled interrogator could probably get you or I to admit we kidnapped the Lindbergh baby.
Exactly. Honestly, a skilled interrogator could probably even get me to admit that I am the Lindbergh baby. It does kind of make sense, considering that this body type is a physique best described as 92-year-old dead baby. The truth is, there are a number of reasons an innocent person might confess to something they didn't do, and a lot of that comes down to what happens in a police interrogation room. So tonight, let's talk about police interrogations, what tactics they use, and how damaging they can be, particularly for the innocent. And let's start with some history here, because it used to be police could basically torture people to get confessions, a practice that came to be known as using the third degree. But in 1936, the Supreme Court declared physical coercion unconstitutional, meaning that police departments had to adopt new techniques. And it says something that their early attempts to do this featured some pretty basic instructions, like in this film from the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Look the suspect in the eyes to observe eye movements and physical changes that might indicate deception. If you can't look him in the eyes, watch an imaginary X on the forehead or nose. It's the same effect. Once deception is detected, you know you're on the right track.
OK, hold on. Was drawing the X really necessary there? Were they genuinely worried their officers wouldn't know how to look at a forehead without visual representation? Because if they cannot spot a forehead, I'd argue maybe they should not be trusted to spot a criminal. But eventually, one particular approach became the standard, the Reed technique, named after one of its creators, John E. Reed, a former Chicago police officer turned polygraph expert. He formed a training firm that now claims to have trained hundreds of thousands of investigators and has influenced nearly every aspect of modern police interrogations. The Reed techniques become one of those things that just culturally comes with being a cop, you know, like their fondness for donuts or their complicity in the perpetuation of state-sponsored violence. And when it comes to questioning suspects, there are two major phases to the Reed technique. The interview, where you determine whether someone is a suspect, and the interrogation, where you try to get them to confess. Now, in the interview stage, the goal is to gauge how truthful the answers you're getting are. The approach is similar to a lie detector test. You essentially start with some basic questions to set a baseline, then move to so-called behaviour-provoking questions when you analyse the suspect's verbal and, crucially, non-verbal behaviour. This Reed training film, for instance, explains how barrier postures like crossing your arms are a sign that you're lying.
The next two illustrations we're going to see, each subject moves into a barriered posture after they were asked the critical question.
Why do you think Bob said he saw you selling marijuana?
Hey, come on, how should I know? I mean, who knows why people say things? I sure don't.
Mark, have you ever thought about sexually touching a child?
No. Not seriously.
Now, hold on. First, let's acknowledge those are clearly community theatre actors trying their hardest to convey guilt. And we should give the first actress her flowers because she showed up to that non-union gig ready to work. As for this guy, he's doing a pretty spot-on Kevin Spacey impression there between the facial resemblance, the haircut, and the unconvincing denials of sexual attraction to children. He's really nailing it. And I know that that looks dated, but it's still very much in use. That video is available for purchase right now on Reed's website. It was $100, and it was not remotely worth it. But there is a big issue with relying on that sort of behavioural analysis, because while Reed claims that investigators trained in their technique have shown an average accuracy of 83% in identifying deceptive subjects, the truth is much less impressive, as this retired homicide investigator explains.
The Reed people admit that it's not based on any science whatsoever, just based on their own observations. The real science is it's baloney. It doesn't work. And when they've done experiments with it, they pretty much show that the accuracy is like flipping a coin. It's 50-50.
Right. It's basically chance. It's got around the same accuracy as a BuzzFeed quiz. Answer 17 questions about pizza and we'll tell you which Gilmore Girl you are. Wait, I'm a Rory? The fuck are you talking about, BuzzFeed? I'm a Lorelei all day. I talk fast, I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, and God, do I look good in a pea coat. And I have to tell you, Reed and Associates will insist that their interview technique is part of an overall approach that works if you just follow all of the instructions in their 400-page manual to the letter. But this thing is so full of caveats and outright contradictions, you can find support in it for nearly any conclusion that you want to reach. For instance, when it comes to eye contact, it advises that when a person is being less than honest, he may not maintain direct eye contact, but also others may overcompensate by staring. Meaning, if you have eyes, you're basically fucked. And I'm not saying that Reed is the only problem here. There's now a whole industry of consultants who supposedly train cops to spot liars. But it's all bullshit. Years of research has demonstrated that behavioural cues like eye blinking and arm crossing are simply not reliable indicators of deception, which does make sense. People move their bodies in all sorts of ways, whether they are telling the truth or not. In fact, the only truly honest body movement that humans are capable of is when someone accidentally walks through a spider web. That's it. Then, and only then, are your gestures completely truthful and void of pretense to the fucking shit. So, thanks to this junk science, police can essentially assure themselves of their own certainties. And if they have decided you are guilty, you're in big trouble, because that is when the interrogation begins. And while they'll say that they are looking for the truth, Reed trains officers to steer the conversation away from anything that's not a confession.
Many guilty people introduce their denials with permission phrases, such as, "Can I say one thing? Would you just listen to me? But sir, if I could only explain." When the interrogator hears those phrases, it's important to interject yourself and stop the person from continuing, because if you let him talk, he'll say the words, "I didn't do it." And the more often a person says they didn't do it, the more difficult it becomes for us to get a confession.
Oh, yes, the telltale signs of guilt. Would you please listen to me? Can I explain? And I'm telling you I didn't do it. And if an investigator is trying to get you to confess, they can grind you down. Interrogations can last from a couple of hours to double digits. One study of false confessions found that they came after an average of 16.3 hours of questioning, which can be utterly exhausting. Innocent people can wind up confessing just to escape the stress of that situation. That was the case with Robert Davis, who at just 18 was suspected of double murder and interrogated for over 5 hours.
What can I say that I did to get me out of this? When will I go home? Huh? When will I go home today? Will I go home now?
I can't promise you. Look, when you work with me, I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure your mom and we can get you, maybe get you home. Robert, I'm gonna come straight out and tell you what I'm getting. All right? Since you're not gonna tell me, you stabbed that woman.
I stabbed her.
You stabbed her, didn't you?
One or two times. Do you think by me telling you this is gonna get me home tonight?
Tonight?
Today.
Today, I doubt it.
Well, then why am I lying about all this too, just so I can go home?
You're not lying.
I am lying to you. I am lying to you full front to your face. I am lying to you.
Yeah, he lied about stabbing someone, then immediately admitted that he'd lied, but by that point it was too late. He actually went to prison for 13 years before being exonerated. The notion that people crack under pressure and falsely confess really shouldn't be that hard to understand. It's a concept that even children's cartoons get. Because remember that My Little Pony scene from earlier? This is how it continued.
No, 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 no!
What do you want to hear? Tell me what you want me to say and I'll say it.
Tell me what you want me to say and I'll say it. I kidnapped the Lindbergh baby. Is that what you want to hear, you pink psycho? And the thing is, people might assume that even if they falsely confess, they can later recant and the real evidence will prevail and clear them. But that's actually very unlikely, because as soon as the police get a confession, thorough investigations tend to stop. And at this point, I'm going to answer the question that you may have had for a while now. Why don't people just invoke their constitutional right to an attorney? Well, the truth is, approximately 80% waive their Miranda rights and willingly submit to a police interrogation for a number of understandable reasons. Sometimes people think, I don't need a lawyer, I didn't do anything, or they believe they're only being brought in as a witness and not a suspect. But not having a lawyer makes you incredibly vulnerable because, for one thing, a lawyer might clue you in to an absolutely insane power that police in America have been given by the Supreme Court.
In the United States, a detective can legally lie about the evidence to a suspect. It is lawful for detectives to turn to a suspect and say, you say you didn't do this, but we've got your fingerprints on the murder weapon. Or we have a victim who had hair in her grasp, and we tested the hair, it's yours. Or the shoe prints we found at the scene are yours. Or that polygraph you wanted to take, you failed it.
It's true. The police in this country can flat out lie to you to make you think you have no choice but to confess. And some of the lies they tell are simply ridiculous. An investigator in Florida told a suspect they had a laser, the kind that you shoot on Star Wars, and with it they could actually lift fingerprints off bodies, a technology that, to be clear, does not exist. Although, having said that, I'm now pretty sure that we're just one bad pitch meeting away from the Star Wars laser getting its own 10-episode series on Disney+. The laser will be voiced by Oscar Isaac and will all come. Now, allowing the police to lie to suspects is crazy. Most countries do not allow it, and for good reason. It is far too powerful a tool. Remember Robert Davis? It might still be hard for you to imagine why he confessed to doing something that he didn't do. But look at what the interrogator was claiming in that room.
I got evidence out the ass. Dust is made of mostly of human dead skin. That can be picked up, that DNA.
I'm not going to be able to keep you from the worst, Robert. If you don't talk to me, I can't keep you from the worst. What is it there? Damn it, Robert, you were. You were there. The evidence shows you were there. The evidence shows you. I can't lie about the evidence.
I can't lie about the evidence. He lied as he lied about the evidence, and did it gesturing with all the theatrical nuance of a high schooler auditioning for A Few Good Men. The overwhelming pressure of a police interrogation, coupled with their ability to invent evidence, can actually make people question their own memories. That happened with Christopher Tapp, who served 20 years in prison for a murder he did not commit and was heavily manipulated during his interrogation.
I wasn't there. The way I think you sounded to me like I was there.
The police told me a few times that if there was something that horrific, you would definitely hide it and it'd go in your subconscious.
It's just like me. On some of the brutal stuff that we see out on the streets, my mind shuts down on me because I don't want to remember.
I started second guessing myself during all this. I started to not believe in myself or who I was.
I don't know, because right now everything I've been saying, what I think is right in my head, it's been wrong.
That is terrible. And it is more than a little infuriating how that investigator convinces him of doubting his own memory by making it seem like it happens all the time. You half expect him to say, you know how you can't remember if it was the Berenstain Bears or Berenstain Bears? Or if Shaq was in a movie called Shazam, or maybe it was Sinbad and the movie was actually called Kazam. That's what your brain's doing right now, but with murder. Brains are weird, huh? All these tactics are incredibly manipulative, and they work especially well on certain people. Research shows false confessions were a factor in 34% of cases in which children were wrongly convicted, and a stunning 69% of cases in which people with mental illness or intellectual disabilities were later exonerated. And look, there are some limits on what police can do. Some judges won't allow a confession if the police promised you leniency in exchange for it. But many cops walk right up to that line by suggesting a confession might reduce prison time or spare you the death penalty. You just saw that happen with Robert Davis, when that officer told him he could keep him from the worse. Also, police are told not to feed you information about the crime that is not publicly available, as it's obviously damning for a jury to hear that you knew details only the guilty party would know. But that happens all the time too. One study of DNA exonerations found that 94% of false confessions were contaminated by allegedly inside information. And the thing is, even if police engage in these tactics, crucially, the jury may only see the confession, not the interrogation that led up to it. Only 30 states require the recording of interrogations at all, and in the rest, it's up to the police, who might only record the confession. That's it. And you just cannot get the full story from seeing one short clip. Imagine if the only clip that you'd ever seen of the show One Tree Hill was this.
Dr. Jameson, please call extension 2524.
Dr. Casper to the ER. Dr. Casper to the ER.
Nurse Henderson to admitting. Nurse Henderson.
Do you want to know what One Tree Hill is about? It's about a high school basketball team. You'd have no way of knowing that from that clip. All you would know is that it contained the most perfect 20 seconds of television that has ever existed. The problem with police interrogations right now is the same problem that we have with policing at large. They're emboldened to act however they'd like in a system where they hold an undue amount of power with very few protections for civilians, especially the most vulnerable. Because there can be little to no consequences for extracting a false confession. Just listen to this man, who was a 19-year-old former special education student at the time of his arrest for raping and murdering a woman. After being interrogated over the course of 4 days, including, fun fact, 2 polygraphs conducted by Reed and Associates, he confessed under pressure and spent nearly 20 years in prison until finally being exonerated by DNA.
All the officers that worked on my case, as well as state's attorneys, they've all retired with pension. Full pension. There was no repercussion, no retribution, no criminal charges, nothing. They actually exceeded in their job. They retired as captains, majors, lieutenants. The head state's attorney, Michael Waller, retired, and they gave him a plaque for good job.
That is maddening. That state attorney certainly doesn't deserve a good job plaque unless it came with another drop-down plaque that read, "At fucking up innocent people's lives, you monumental arsehole." And while I've spent tonight showing you people who were exonerated, there are still many incarcerated people fighting convictions that have every hallmark of a false confession, like Brendan Dassey, from making a murderer who was 16 when he confessed to a murder that he could not describe, and Melissa Lucio, whose incredibly manipulative interrogation we featured in our wrongful convictions piece and who is set to be executed in just 10 days. So what can we do? Well, we should absolutely require all interrogations be recorded in their entirety so juries have the full context of what happened in that room. We should also make it illegal for police to lie to suspects, because it is madness that they're currently allowed to do that. And there's actually a growing movement for some reform here. These 3 states have now banned police from lying to juvenile suspects, and New York has introduced legislation that would ban lying to all suspects and require courts to evaluate the reliability of confession evidence before allowing it to be used. And that should be adopted absolutely everywhere. And if you're thinking, well, hold on, John, how will investigators get guilty people to confess if they can't intimidate or lie to them? Well, not to be a total bitch, but their job is literally to investigate, so maybe they could try doing some of that. Also, you can productively interrogate someone without lying to them. The UK now uses something called the peace method, where they ask open-ended questions and let the suspect give their own account. And I am not saying that that system is perfect. It clearly isn't. Among other things, they still haven't gotten the Queen to confess to killing Diana on camera, but it's at least a start. And in the meantime, there's actually a lot of cultural conditioning regarding police interrogations that we need to start undoing. Because think about it, how many dramas have you seen on TV where roughing up the bad guy led to solving the crime? How many shows have there been where the bad guy seemed guilty and the officer's gut feeling was confirmed by the end of the episode? Our misconceptions about police interrogations have been hammered in by crime dramas, and they've been hammered in deep. And perhaps one small way to help undo that damage is for shows to present a slightly more accurate picture of what can really happen in that room.
This fall, meet two tough cops, expert interrogators.
Knock, knock.
Who won't take no for an answer.
You son of a bitch. You're guilty, you dirty rat bastard!
What are you talking about?
You know what we're talking about. The murder in the alley.
I didn't do
No, come on! I can't hear that.
We cannot hear you say that.
They're highly trained.
You're lying!
No, I'm not.
He looked away. That is lying.
Now you're staring. That's lying, too. More lies.
And incredibly skilled.
What are you doing?
I'm making eye contact.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
Are you looking at my forehead?
No.
And they'll say anything to get what they need.
Have you seen Rogue One?
The Star Wars movie?
That Star Wars film.
I think I saw it once, yeah.
You're probably familiar with lightsabers. Probably less familiar with the fact that we have them. And they have the ability to pull DNA from a dead body with a single shot. I cannot lie about this.
It's true. He can't lie about the wrong.
And I mean anything.
You ever get to work and not remember any of your commute? Maybe it was like that, but with murder.
Is this dress black and blue or gold and white?
You've got two choices. Confess to 1 count of murder 2 or 2 counts of murder 1.
You gotta help us help you. Help us help you. Help us convict you.
Murderer says what?
What?
That counts! That counts!
Oh no, are you allergic to your own victim?
Did you just blow a dead body on me? Did you just blow a dead body on me?
Yes, yeah.
I got evidence coming out of every hole of my body!
Those can't be the only choices. Those can't be the only choices. I want a third choice.
1 count of murder.
I want a third choice.
2 counts of murder.
I don't like those
These are 2 choice free.
Guys, it's been 15 and a half hours. I can't take much more of this.
Well, you know, if you help me out a little bit, maybe I can make sure that you get to sleep in your own bed tonight.
Fine. I did it.
Yes! Ace in the hole, baby! Oh!
Sorry about the delay, fellas. Here's your perp.
We don't need any more suspects. The one you brought us yesterday just confessed.
But this was the guy you were supposed to interrogate yesterday.
Who the hell's this?
I just came in here to charge my phone.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Look at that.
Oh, you're still going to jail.
Put him in the cuffs.
My pleasure.
His phone battery dies and he goes to prison.
Whoa.
That's
I'm gonna charge my phone in an interrogation room.
Yeah. Who does that? Hey, don't forget your phone.
I'm gonna piss.
The Confestigators.
Hey, it ain't ruining my life.
That's our show. Thanks so much for watching. We're off next week. Back after that. Good night.
G-U-I-L-T.
The victim says you did it. Are you calling the victim a liar? That never happens.
Innocent man says what?